The Los Alamos National Laboratory is working to reduce the flow of contaminated sediment down two canyons that eventually feed into the Rio Grande. This includes low concentrations of plutonium and PCBs. Denny Katzman, who's in charge of the project at LANL, says the contaminated sediment dates back to research done at the lab in the 1950s and 60s.
For years now, we've been studying all of the canyons up here at the laboratory and trying to understand whether or not the residual contaminants from those practices represented any kind of human health or ecological risk.
LANL is building $2 million grade control structures that serve to trap sediment in Pueblo and DP Canyon. Katzman explains.
They basically are built of sort of wire cages that are strapped together, filled with rocks, and these things will form sort of hard features in the canyon floor.
10,000 willows have been planted in Pueblo Canyon. This and other elements of sediment control will trap contamination in the event of heavy rainfall.
In the case of Pueblo Canyon, there is an existing wetland, and this will be positioned at the downstream end of that wetland. And what it will effectively do is not create necessarily a basin or a pond behind the structure to trap water or sediment, but rather the wetland will grow to become flush with the structure itself. And the wetland is actually occupied by very, very thick wetland vegetation. In the case of Pueblo Canyon, it's a thick type of grass. The difficulty that water has passing through such thick vegetation slows the water down, and that any sediments that are carried in that water will deposit.
Meanwhile, James Bierzi of the Environment Department says the lab might not have been doing any of this at all had it not been for a direct order from the state.
The Environment Department actually directs the work. In fact, we don't think the laboratory would even be doing it if the department didn't tell them to do it and direct them to do it under the consent order. In 2005, we signed a historic order with the laboratory directing them to do cleanup across the laboratory. And this includes controlling sediment in canyons and groundwater and cleaning up surface sites. Under the consent order, they have to stop off-site migration of contaminants. It's long been known that there's contaminants in Los Alamos and Pueblo canyons, in addition to other canyons as well. And the department, about 2 years ago, told the laboratory that they need to take active, aggressive measures to control sediments in Los Alamos and Pueblo Canyon and keep them from flowing off-site. And then they're going to have to do something about cleaning them up.
One concern from the Environment Department is a hotspot of PCBs located in Upper Los Alamos Canyon. Bierzi says they have a great risk to humans and the environment.
Upper Los Alamos Canyon, they've found a location that has the highest concentrations of PCBs or polychlorinated biphenyls that they've found anywhere in the lab property.
So what to do about this PCB hotspot? LANL spokesperson Fred D'Souza agrees it needs to be cleaned up and that they've just started the removal this week.
We absolutely agree that it needs to be done. And this week, a crew began exactly that work. They've been clearing a couple of trees to clear the area so that they can come in with, among other things, truck-mounted vacuum systems. And they'll use this vacuum to remove the hot spots, the contaminated sediment. And when that's done, we'll test it again and make sure we got what we needed to get.
The State Department still isn't satisfied. Bierzi says there's another issue. It concerns the gauging stations that aren't being rebuilt fast enough. They are necessary in order for the Buckman Direct Diversion Project to proceed, a project that will divert water from the Rio Grande to Santa Fe County.
That is not something that the department is very happy with. That is the pace of them doing that. We share the Buckman Board's concerns that those gauges have not been in place yet. We're frustrated with the pace of getting those put in and being responsive to the Buckman Board as well. Those gauging stations are independent of the monitoring stations that they're going to have to put in to determine how these grade control structures and other structures perform. These gauging stations are strictly to determine whether or not there's flow in the canyon, and then to be able to use telemetry or other means to let Buckman operators know to make a decision whether or not to turn the system off. But we share that frustration.
In response, D'Souza says LANL will pick up the pace and finish in time for the Buckman project.
We won't make excuses. We'll be done well before the Buckman project comes online. We'll do a better job, and we need to do a better job, and we will do a better job to get it done on time.
For KSFR News, I'm Rachel Kennedy.